The next round of tariffs coming in 2 days. How the markets are reacting, as well as what Congress is planning to offset possible price increases in the near term.
It was like a freight train. I want to put it like a freight train just going through. The wind was so, like, you could just hear it whistling.
And 86 million people under severe weather threats. Who is in line tonight after deadly storms crossed the Midwest yesterday? And then a solemn update out of Lithuania, the latest in the search for 4 United States soldiers. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thank you for joining us on your Monday. As we come on the air, the Dow closing up 417 points today as the world awaits President Donald Trump's Liberation Day of new retaliatory tariffs. That is on Wednesday. The president says the expected tariffs won't be as bad as once feared, but they will be coming. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
If you look at the unfair trade practices that we have, 50% from the European Union on American dairy. You have a 700% tariff from Japan on American rice. You have a 100% tariff from India on American agricultural products. You have nearly a 300% tariff from Canada on American butter and American cheese. This makes it virtually impossible for American products to be imported into these markets.
Meantime, businesses both at home and abroad are on edge about what these tariffs will mean for our economy. National correspondent Matt Galka reports from Washington.
The countdown to what the president calls Liberation Day is on. The anticipated tariff announcement April 2nd has investors at home and abroad bracing for what's next. Trump hasn't revealed the size and scope just yet.
They will be kinder than those countries were to the United States of America over the decades. They ripped us off like no country's ever been ripped off in history. And we're going to be much nicer than they were to us, but it's substantial money for the country, nevertheless.
The tariffs could target most trading partners, along with new auto tariffs that will impose a new 25% tax on imported cars and parts, which could substantially raise prices for vehicles, something the president shrugged off. The White House is promising long-term benefits from tariffs, as well as offsets from tax cuts being negotiated on Capitol Hill.
We're going to raise about $100 billion with the auto tariffs alone. What we're going to do is, in the new tax bill that has to pass, it absolutely has to pass, we're going to provide tax benefits, tax credits to the people who buy American cars.
Economic warning signs are seemingly everywhere. Goldman Sachs raised the chances that America will have a recession in the next year to 35%, up from 20%, citing tariffs as a reason inflation could spike along with unemployment. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss says that he supports a lot of the president's economic agenda, but tariffs will squeeze the economy.
If you added on 25% of tariffs to all of our imported goods, you would generate about $1 trillion. Well, that alone, that's based upon the fact that consumers won't pull back. They will pull back.
The tax bill being negotiated in Congress is a top priority and mostly an extension of 2017 tax cuts. New priorities could include no taxes on tips and Social Security. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
86 million people now on alert for severe weather and increased chances of dangerous thunderstorms. Right now, a line of severe storms moving east to west right now from Tallahassee, Florida to Charlottesville, Virginia. This system has already set off tornado warnings in South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama today. And this threat will continue hours until the storm is off the coast around midnight tonight. More than 280,000 customers still without power in Michigan right now. That was hit by severe storms just yesterday that turned deadly in multiple states. 3 children are dead in Kalamazoo when the car they were in was hit by a fallen tree. 2 more people were killed in separate instances in Indiana when the powerful winds blew over their vehicles. Meantime, in Ohio, Sinclair Township, an estimated 20 mobile homes were damaged. Some of the homes shifted off their foundation. Others had roofs and siding completely torn off. National Weather Service officials are reviewing whether or not this was caused by a tornado, but there are other causes of this kind of destruction.
One thing people need to keep in mind is straight line wind damage can be as extreme as a tornado on many occasions.
While thousands in the area are without power, there are no reports of any injuries from the storm. New information: officials are investigating a recent near miss near D.C.'s Reagan Airport, the site of January's deadly midair collision. A departing Delta flight almost collided with an Air Force jet on Friday. The FAA said air traffic controllers gave corrective instructions to both aircraft. An NTSB report will be out within 30 days. Also at Reagan Airport, a United Airlines flight hit a kite on Saturday while landing. United said no one got hurt. An official told WUSA that police responded to reports of kites flying in a park near the airport, which is prohibited. This as the NTSB investigates a plane crash in Minnesota that is thought to have killed U.S. Bank executive Terry Dolan. A small plane crashed into a home in Brooklyn Park on Saturday. Not clear how many people were on board, but one person in the home escaped safely, according to officials. The bank said Dolan was likely on the plane and that it was registered to him. Here's a live look at Madison, Wisconsin, where tomorrow Wisconsin voters head to the polls to vote on two measures that could drastically change the political future of the state. President Trump weighing in the upcoming election on his Truth Social account today, imploring voters to support question 1, a state constitution referendum that will require voter ID for all future elections. He also is urging Wisconsin voters to back state Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimler over more liberal candidate Susan Crawford, who the president said would be a disaster for Wisconsin and America. A lot of national money and attention has been put into this election. The Supreme Court context is being treated as a bellwether for national sentiment and could have wide-ranging political consequences. Here's national correspondent Kelly Gaskins with more.
The hottest issues in partisan politics at play in Wisconsin's Supreme Court race.
This is a race to watch on Tuesday. Now, it is tight.
While the candidates are not labeled Democrat or Republican, Brad Schimler is a conservative option backed by President Trump.
But I'm running for all of Wisconsin.
He's up against liberal Susan Crawford, who's endorsed by former President Obama.
A lot of twists and turns in this race.
The winner will decide which side has a majority on the court, and thus the likely outcomes of key cases with state and national impacts.
There's a lot of Wisconsin pride going on, pride in their democracy. They have a high voting turnout. They love their state and they like good governance.
On deck at the state level, abortion rights and voting rights. At the national level, decisions on redistricting that could impact congressional races with the possibility of threatening Republicans' super slim House majority, and with it, President Trump's ability to advance his agenda in Congress. The high stakes turning this contest into the most expensive state judge race ever. Both sides expected to pour in upwards of $100 million.
We need to get everybody out to vote for Brad Schimler on Tuesday. The reason is we want to keep Wisconsin. The left wants to turn Wisconsin into the next Illinois or Minnesota.
Elon Musk handing out $1 million checks at a rally over the weekend to draw attention to the race.
So the first check goes to Nicholas Jacobs.
He and groups linked to him have reportedly spent $20 million on the contest.
We want to restore individual freedoms, freedom of speech, just in general, get the government off your back.
And on the other side, progressive activist and mega donor George Soros entering the arena with a $2 million donation to the liberal candidate. Wisconsin is also a presidential battleground state. President Trump narrowly beat Kamala Harris there in 2024. Tuesday's outcome will be seen by some as a gauge of how voters view Trump's presidency thus far and how Democrats are faring 5 months after their 2024 defeat. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins, reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Georgia's elections laws signed by Governor Kemp in 2020 will stand. Today, Attorney General Pam Bondi dismissed the Department of Justice's lawsuit against the law brought by the Biden administration, claiming it was filed under false pretenses. Bondi said, quote, contrary to the Biden administration's false claims of suppression, black voter turnout actually increased under SB 202. Georgians deserve secure elections, not fabricated claims of false voter suppression meant to divide us. Americans can be confident that this Department of Justice will protect their vote and never play politics with election integrity. The FBI is investigating a Sunday fire and vandalism at the GOP headquarters in New Mexico as arson. No suspect has been named as of yet, but incendiary materials were found on the scene. Authorities say attackers also spray painted ICE equals KKK on the outside of the building. The building was vacant at the time of the apparent attack. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The Supreme Court is considering whether religiously affiliated nonprofits should get the same tax exemptions as churches. Today, the justices heard an appeal from Catholic charities arguing the state of Wisconsin is denying them tax exemptions that religious groups are supposed to get. A lower court had ruled the nonprofits' work is primarily charitable and secular, not religious. The Supreme Court's ruling is expected by June. 10 former New York corrections officers in court today for a pretrial hearing following the death of an inmate late last year. Authorities say 43-year-old Robert Brooks died in December after he was beaten by correctional officers while in custody at Marcy Correctional Facility in New York. 6 prison workers are indicted on murder charges in the case, while 4 others face manslaughter charges. The investigation into Brooks's death continues. More correction officers could still be charged. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is now asking a federal judge to drop his criminal corruption charges. Last September, Adams pleaded not guilty to federal bribery and fraud charges with Turkish nationals. Mayor Adams wants the case dropped before petitions to get on the June primary ballot are due on April 3rd. Coming up next here on the National News Desk, illegal border crossings encounters, they drop. The push for a larger deportation process now in the works. Plus, jury duty scam, the clever way crooks could grab on to your personal information. Then pickleball problems, how neighborhood courts are becoming a nuisance. We're back in 90 seconds. Illegal encounters at American borders reached a new 7-year low this February, of fewer than 30,000 encounters of illegal migrants. The last such month was January of 2018, down from 81,000 encounters in January of 2025. This year's February numbers are 96% lower than last year's February numbers of 256,000. And in conjunction with this decrease in border traffic, the public deportation of criminal migrants continued over the weekend.
17 Tren de Aragua and MS-13 illegal criminal terrorists were deported from our country back to El Salvador, and they will no longer ever be able to say they can roam free in this country under this president.
The press secretary said that all 17 deported were already convicted of murder and or rape or other felonies in the United States. Federal Judge James Boasberg's restraining order against the deportation of alleged foreign gang members does not stop the administration from deporting criminals under regular immigration law. The Trump administration has also appealed Judge Boasberg's ruling to the Supreme Court, seeking to restart their larger deportation operation. The death toll from Friday's earthquake in Myanmar has grown to more than 2,000 people. A 7.7 magnitude quake rocked the region, creating havoc for recovery and relief efforts. Many people are still missing. Now, one man hasn't been able to contact his loved ones and has no idea if they're okay.
I am worried for them since I cannot contact them. Besides, the damage in Mandalay is enormous. Additionally, buildings where my friends lived and the monastery where I lived were entirely damaged. I also have lost contact with some of my friends.
With power outages and spotty communications, humanitarian relief efforts are a massive challenge. Myanmar is also in the throes of civil war and lacks equipment and infrastructure necessary for rescue operations. There are fears that hunger and disease outbreaks are to follow. Crews, meantime, are still searching for one of the U.S. Army soldiers who went missing in Lithuania last week. Today, officials said the bodies of the 3 others were found. Their identities will be revealed once their families are notified. The soldiers disappeared during a training mission. Their vehicle was found under mud and water. Authorities are investigating. Mortgage company Rocket is buying its competitor, Mr. Cooper. It's an all-stock deal valued at $9.4 billion. This deal comes weeks after Rocket acquired real estate listing company Redfin. Rocket says the agreement will give it an additional 7 million clients, and it will now represent 1 in every 6 mortgages in the U.S. The sheriff of Butler County, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati, is warning residents of a jury duty scam call. A lot of people have been receiving this. Similar scams have also been identified in Kansas, Florida, Connecticut, North Carolina, and Texas this year. Residents get a call seemingly from a local sheriff's office claiming they missed jury duty, and it urges them to call back or an arrest warrant will be issued. And if you do call that number provided, you soon learn you can prevent being arrested by simply paying a fine.
People are so scared, they go to the bank, and smart people, I mean, people have gave up fortunes.
And here is how to protect yourself. First of all, know you will always receive a jury notice in the mail. And then there is a public record available to check to see if you did miss it. Secondly, never give bank, credit, or debit card information over the phone. And remember, no legitimate local or federal government official will ever ask for your money via gift cards or Bitcoin. Russia is working to implement some ideas related to a settlement with Ukraine. That's what a Kremlin spokesperson said today after President Trump said he'd impose new sanctions on Russian oil if President Putin couldn't make a peace deal. Ukrainian President Zelensky also called for sanctions following continued deadly strikes from Russia. Trump said he will talk to Putin again this week.
Ukraine. Well, look, the president is working incredibly hard to get a peace deal done between Russia and Ukraine, and he has expressed his displeasure with comments that have been made by leaders of both sides of this conflict. He has expressed what he believes needs to take place in order to see this conflict come to an end. He continues to work very hard on it, and our teams continue to be engaged.
Caroline. A cancer survivor is encouraging others today not to give up hope. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shares what he says is behind his remarkable turnaround in spite of the odds.
Hey there, everybody. When Dr. Will Smallwood was initially diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of the blood, he thought he was headed for a short survival. At the time, this busy vice president of advancement at Ohio's Cedarville University told me his only real symptom was severe back pain. Scans showed he had a series of lesions on his spine.
On the day of diagnosis, my kidneys were already failing. 70% of the cells in my body were cancerous. My doctor indicated that if we did absolutely nothing, I'd have about 6 months to live.
So Will took what he says his doctors called a lethal dose of chemotherapy. It dropped his cancerous cells down to about 15%, and it made him a candidate for a stem cell transplant, which removes his own damaged cells in his body and replaces them with healthy ones. Within months,
the doctors declared my cancer in what they call durable remission.
that remission is sustained right now with maintenance medications. But a year and a half later, Will says his mission now?
Investing my life in students.
That investment means letting others know on this campus and in his community that if you're a person of faith, the size of the obstacle doesn't have to change how you believe.
When you hear the words, you have 6 months to live, anxiety, fear, doubt, all those things come rushing in. But very quickly, I learned that what really had changed is I got cancer. And whether or not that I had 6 months or 6 years or 60 years, I know who holds and controls my life.
Will is now back at work and raising funds for the Capital campaign to expand his university. He says when you don't know what to do to help someone on a challenging health journey, don't underestimate the power of praying for them. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
And we are rooting for him. Coming up next year, the firefighter responding to your call could be an inmate. The changes lawmakers want to make to better support them. Welcome back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Maine, where neighborhood pickleball courts are causing major disruptions.
Indoors or out, players admit pickleball is noisy. People who live near outdoor pickleball courts tell us the noise of paddles hitting plastic balls for hours on end can be maddening. A woman who lives by the Kittery courts, who works nights at a hospital, says she can't sleep during the day when they're playing.
Players have, on their own, have taken it to start later in the morning to give her an opportunity to sleep.
This week, the town manager told councilors they're still waiting for recommendations from sound engineers on how to best reduce the racket.
Kittery has taken steps to block some of the noise by putting up these sound barriers, and one possible solution will likely be to raise the fence and these sound barriers even higher.
Oh my God, the boat turned over.
Caught on camera, students swimming to safety after their boats took on too much water.
Maybe we should call rescue or something.
The water temperature was about 45 to 50 degrees yesterday.
Jeffrey Sorey says the Tabor Academy rowing team was training on South Watuppa Pond. Earlier Saturday, the Fall River Fire Department says a rowing competition was canceled due to weather, but Tabor decided to stay and go out on the water.
The wind direction shifted, the wind speed picked up a little bit, and so the coaches made the call to come back to shore.
5 boats went out, each containing several rowers. but only 2 made it back to the Watuppa boat launch. As for the others,
we just prioritized getting rowers to shore safely where they were.
Thankfully, they had life jackets on hand. Everyone made it out of the water before first responders arrived.
They fight alongside state and county firefighters at some of the biggest incidents across the state. Inmates earning money and credits in exchange for protecting lives and homes. But now some are saying that money isn't enough.
Incarcerated people who bravely step forward to fight our state's wildfires are severely underpaid.
According to California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, inmates earn between $5.80 and $10.24 a day. Those assigned to an active emergency earn an additional $1 an hour. Assembly Bill 247 would increase the pay for hand crews to $19 an hour.
Coming up next, readjusting to life back on Earth. The 2 astronauts who had an unexpected 9 months in space reflect on their experience. We're back in 90 seconds. Starliner crew capsule. A SpaceX capsule retrieved them earlier this month. They still say they'd take a Starliner again.
Because we're going to rectify all the issues that we encountered.
Yeah.
We're going to fix them. We're going to make it work.
It is a great spacecraft, and it has a lot of capability that other spacecraft don't have. And to see that thing successful and to be part of that program is an honor.
Sounds like they're even more inspired. Wilmore and Williams spent 286 days in space conducting experiments and completing spacewalks. That's going to do it for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. See you tonight.